Welcome, Jill, to our little conversation
Thank
here.
you.
It's so nice of you to be willing to share your story. Can you just go over some of the major points of your story? You're obviously
Sure.
very young, and that's one of the
Yes.
things we want to deal with.
Yes. I was 42 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. It came as a complete and total shock to me. Looking back, I was one of those people who thought, I don't have any risk factors. I have no breast cancer in my family. Exam with my OBGYN, and she felt something. And she said, this doesn't really feel like cancer to me. I typically can, it usually has a very distinct feel, and this doesn't really feel like breast cancer, but you need follow-up. You need a mammogram, and we need to just make sure. And so at that point, I still didn't have my head wrapped around the fact that this could be cancer. And I followed her advice. I went in immediately, and it ended up being a 2 centimeter triple negative, very aggressive breast cancer. And
So
I was shocked.
I bet you were.
Yes.
And have you ever heard of triple negative?
Honestly, I had heard the word triple negative, honestly, on Good Morning America because Robin Roberts had it.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember them saying it was, it was an unusual type of cancer, and it was very deadly. And when I heard those words come back that it was triple negative, I just could not believe that, I felt healthy, I felt fine, I didn't feel sick. I couldn't even really feel the tumor myself. Even when my OBGYN kind of took my hand and showed me where it was, I could feel something, but I couldn't distinguish it from all the other lumps.
Breast can be lumpy, and some of this happens. Even for us, we'll get a report. Somebody comes in with an ultrasound or mammogram that shows something, and we just can't tell it's there. And it can be fairly 2 centimeters is almost an inch.
Right.
So you'd think that would be quite obvious, but the reality is not. It's common for doctors to actually not react like your doctor did. They feel something that's that vague, and they say, well, don't worry about it. You're too young. It doesn't run in your family. In fact, your doctor gets an A+ gold star.
And in fact, I don't know if you remember this, but the first time I came in to see you, I was crying. I mean, could not stop crying. And you said to me, you are very lucky because 9 out of 10 doctors would have missed this.
Yeah, that's true.
Just by the way it felt. And so, yeah.
Well, it's interesting now that the American Cancer Society and Komen are saying you don't have to do breast self-exam, you don't have to have a clinical exam. I don't know where they're coming from this. On breast exam, they say you should be breast self-aware and report a change. In your case, you weren't, I don't know, did you do breast self-exam?
A little bit. I mean, I tried to, but like I said, it just all felt lumpy to me, and I didn't feel like I really had been taught what to feel for, or, to be really taught to look not necessarily for a lump, but for changes. I didn't know that at the time. And so, like I said, breast cancer was not even on my radar at all at that time.
But you did the right thing. So you have 2 basic layers of protection at your age: a screening mammogram, actually the self-exam, and then the clinical exam. So they're kind of downgrading all of these. The experts saying, well, you don't need to do any of that stuff. Well, the reality is, in your case, had your diagnosis been delayed further, you could have been in major trouble. But as it turned out, you saw Dr. Link and you went on aggressive chemotherapy. How was that?
It was, at that point, it was just, I was in a fog. And I remember you saying to me, you're one of the types of cancer that we start in oncology, and you're going to start with chemotherapy. And I was terrified. But I knew at the time, and I remember thinking, I will do whatever you tell me to do because I have 3 children to raise. And I had, at the time, my youngest was 8 years old, and I just thought, I will do whatever you tell me to do. I don't care if I lose my hair. I don't care if, I get sick, if I don't feel, I have to do whatever I need to do to beat this. And that's what I did.
What message then? I mean, that's obviously a take charge message, and I think it's very positive because it's hard to get your arms around this problem. Do you have? I mean, you're a volunteer now. You're the head of our volunteer department. What words of wisdom do you have for women that are going to have to go through chemo?
It's interesting because I meet women every single week who are newly diagnosed, and you really see the spectrum of, you know, very young women who are maybe in their late 20s, early 30s, to women in their 90s, with every diagnosis type, every treatment type, you know, in their future, and they react so differently. I just met with a woman this week who required chemotherapy up front, and she really did not want it and was trying to talk her way out of it. And I just try to impress upon them, look, this is the one time in your life that you need to put yourself first. And you need to do whatever it is you need to do to beat this disease. And your doctors are going to be your best advocates. So, you know, some people are immediately take charge. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to fight this. I'm going to do everything, you know, I can. And some people just want to go in the corner and crawl in a ball and, you know, lock out the world. And it's easy to feel that. It's easy to feel like, you know, I don't feel sick. I don't look sick. What do you mean I'm sick? And so you really do. I mean, I think every woman kind of reacts different based on their personality and where they are in their life and their work responsibilities and their, you know, family life. And a lot of women come in with children, and that tends to be usually a highly motivating factor for a lot of women, as it was for me.
So talking about children and young women, you know, it's kind of implied start mammograms at age 50, kind of giving the, and you don't have to do self-exam, you don't need to do clinical exam. Is like, well, maybe women under 50 should just forget about cancer. The messages are so wrong. What do you think about this concept of starting mammograms at age 50 when you're seeing all these young people?
Well, I would love for whoever's saying that to come into Breastlink and see all the women that we meet every single week who are in their 40s, who have very aggressive types of cancer that if they wait till they're 50, you know, I say that myself. If I would have waited, I wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't be here sitting here right now. So I don't understand that at all. I think that you know, I don't know the statistics. I just know the faces that I see every single week, and there's a lot of faces with, you know, women in their 40s, women in their 30s, who haven't even had the chance to have children yet, or who have babies and young children at home. And I just can't imagine with the number of people that I see and you see on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, that are in that age group under 50. I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine.
It's certainly out there. I think there's two issues too that we really put the cards on the table. In this case, it was a lump, and thank God that you know the doctor found a lot of the women under 40 who are not really getting the mammogram, so they have to. Their only layer of protection is a self-exam and the clinician's exam. And we see it every month, a patient who's found a little lump in a young age group and has it aggressively evaluated and get a diagnosis right away. And sometimes they don't even need the chemotherapy when they do it right. We've also had the other story, and Michelle Watson is one of the young ladies we'll be talking about in one of our videos, and she was 22 when she found the lump. The doctor said, don't worry about it. It grew. More doctors said, don't worry about it. Finally, it metastasized, and it was a sad ending. So this is life and death stuff, and we've got to catch her. And the big breakthrough now, rather than going to infrequent mammograms, is getting more aggressive with the young women. The reason we're missing cancers in some of these women is that the breast tissue is dense. But if we add the MRI or we add the ultrasound, we're now picking up small cancers that were missed on the mammogram. So just when the trend is going to do less, we have these breakthroughs with three-dimensional mammography that we can do more and cut down breast cancer mortality even more. But we're missing this opportunity. But I think it's going to take women like you that are willing to stand up, to share their stories, to get the public motivated, to say, damn it, you know, it's not right. These are the young women that have children. It's incredibly disruptive to miss a cancer at that age. If you can catch it early, you can save a life, and you're the prime example.
Exactly, yeah. And my motivation from day one was my children. You know, I had, as I said, I had an 8-year-old, was my youngest. And when I explained to him, you know, Mom's going to lose her hair, and the way I chose to explain it may be different than what other people do. I just said, you know, I want you to know it's not that I'm so sick that I'm going to lose my hair, but I'm going to take medicine, and that medicine, crazy enough, makes your hair fall out. But the first time he came home and saw me with no hair, he covered his eyes, and he wouldn't look at me again until I had something on my head. And so these are all things that, like you said, if you catch it early, you know, hopefully women don't have to go through that.
Well, we need both early detection, and we do need to invest in basic research. At some point, I think we're going to be able to do a blood test to detect it before it's even reached the size of a millimeter in diameter. And I think those are going to be cancers that we might treat with some form of intravenous therapy without surgery, without major chemotherapy, just a targeted therapy. So we're on the brink of making some major progress, both in early detection and more appropriate, less aggressive treatment that's more effective.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.